after college, came back here, worked in Hollywood. And then, as time went on and I was...
God damn it, Colin.
All right.
Apologies.
Podcast over, man.
It's bound to happen. It was bound to happen.
Yeah. I think it's the funniest just because you were trying not to let it happen.
Yeah.
I was trying so hard.
Those two guys right there are Colin and Samir. Colin is the clumsy one. They run a YouTube channel called, simple enough, Colin and Samir. They're incredibly creative and talented filmmakers, and I was super excited to delve into their craft on this week's podcast. We talk about productivity, creativity, how to avoid busyness, and distractions. And if I could take away one thing from this podcast, if there's one thing that I would say stuck with me the most, it is the art of letting go. And specifically on the podcast, we talked about their experience of dealing with different shoots, traveling the country, and having to deal with very complex situations. And it's something that I can relate to. When I was a freelance filmmaker for years, I had done so many different kinds of shoots and been in so many different environments where anything could go wrong. And trust me, everything did go wrong. From equipment failing, having to go run out in the middle of a shoot to find a replacement part, to actors not showing up or hard drives failing. All of these things have happened and they will continue to happen into the future. And as Colin and Samir explain, how you handle yourself in those situations is what's going to set you apart from other people. When you guys look back at, the lacrosse days and the lacrosse network, is there advice that you would give yourselves at that point in time when you're just starting to build a little bit of momentum, you're just getting started out?
I think for me, the biggest learnings were just, number one, be patient, because creating content, especially for the internet, is going to take a really long time. And your body of work is going to be defined by what you do over 3, 4, 5 years. And, you build strong connections through that amount of time. And then the second thing I would say is just stay calm as you're problem solving. I think one of the things I learned specifically from Samir and then Julian, who's the other co-founder, we were doing a lot of live streams in the early days, and that's kind of a tense thing to be monitoring a live stream and doing the productions for those. And I would really had a tough time monitoring live streams or just working on a live production. But I really learned from Samir and Julian that you have to stay calm through the moments when you need to solve problems, because it's the only way you're going to find a solution. And I was very quick to get anxious and look around and not really know what to do. And I just learned that, and that really helped me out as I was going on production trips, a lot of times by myself, that, things inevitably are going to go wrong on a production trip every single time.
Every shoot. But you just have to stay calm and understand that that's part of the process, or else you will never find a solution. So I learned that quick working with these guys, and that was a huge value add for me.
Totally. I think it's such a good point, that something we learned was that it was just the only thing we could guarantee was that there would be some sort of conflict. That was the only thing we could guarantee with every production, with every, it was the only thing we could guarantee. So then when you start to realize that that's for sure going to happen, you can relax a little bit because you're not surprised by it. Mm-hmm. Even in a relationship, when you think okay, the only thing that's guaranteed between us, even in our partnership, is that there's going to be times where we butt heads. Okay, so when it happens, we're not surprised. And we have some sort of plan and process, and we can relax into the resolution of that, and we can actually grow from that. And that's a really interesting. It was
a really liberating feeling for me. And then you would see people on the road that you work with, and they're freaking out, and you're like, oh, he or she doesn't really understand that this is part of the deal. Yeah. That we're here to work through these issues, and that's just the way it's going to be.
So I know on the podcast we talk a lot about how these principles apply to your work life, how they apply to your creative venture or entrepreneurial venture. And I think that this is one of those principles that can apply to your personal life as well. Me personally, I've been experiencing some challenging health issues lately, issues that I haven't yet gotten to the bottom of. I've explained it briefly on one of these videos. Essentially, for the past 8 weeks, I've been suffering from something called chronic hives and angioedema, which means I will get random hives all over my body, sometimes covering my entire body. and waking up in the middle of the night with a swollen lip. It's been very frustrating, very scary. It actually, I've been handling it pretty well. The first time it happened, I was completely terrified. And then it happened again and again. I kind of got used to it. And then I went to the doctor. And I don't know if you've ever had this experience where you go to the doctor, you tell them what's wrong with you, and they are more frightened than you. And that's really scary. Especially, it was clear that my doctor hadn't seen this very frequently. And she also said, next time this happens with your lips swelling, go straight to the ER. So that was a real wake-up call. And, like I said, it's something I'm continuing to deal with. I take antihistamines daily, so that has taken away most of the symptoms, but I still haven't yet figured out what the underlying problem is. All of that to say that I needed to learn how to let go of the things that I couldn't control. I learned it with my professional work, and I continue to learn it on a personal level. But it was really, even talking with Colin and Samir, it was a moment where I realized, this applies more so to what I'm dealing with right now with my health than anything, because we have this kind of grip on life. We try to hold on to everything and control everything. And eventually you'll get to the point where you can no longer hold on and you're forced to let go. And that feeling is never good. It's never good to feel like you're completely out of control. So the only thing that you can do to actually control that situation, ironically enough, is to let go before you lose control. The Ground Up Show is a podcast that inspires creatives to make things happen. It's available on your favorite podcasting app. Go to groundupshow.com to get all the links.